Hey, what's up, everyone? John here. Today on the Titan of Tech podcast, I want to review 4 lessons that I learned when I participated in my first Capture the Flag CTF event just about a week ago, March 2024. And the first thing off the bat is don't be me. Definitely don't be me. So, for those of you that clicked on this and you're like, what is a CTF? What is a Capture the Flag? Let me explain. Capture the Flag, it's a security vulnerabilities game that's conducted in a test environment. You are instructed to find a hidden piece of information that they refer to as a flag. Maybe it's a specific file. And there are typically 2 types of capture the flags. One is called the Jeopardy style, where you're just given a series of challenges. And the other is attack and defense, where you've got your teams where you each have your own specific network and you're trying to protect your network at the same time you're trying to attack another team's network. Now, in my particular case, we were in Jeopardy style. It was a 3-hour capture the flag event, and there was a total of 16 different puzzles that we were given that we needed to solve. And there was no way nobody solved all 16. That was part of the drill. It was just I think they said it was normally made for a 6-hour game, but we did it in 3. Now, as far as the types of puzzles, you have digital forensics, which is the one that I was able to solve as time was about to expire. There's some reverse engineering, there's some cryptography, files are encrypted, there's some web security, trying to break into a website. And in the case of the one that I solved at the last, legitimately there was 10 seconds left before the game expired, was a digital photograph of a cat by a pool, and the instructions were to find out exactly the location and name of the building that this photo was supposedly taken in. And I was able to use some tools that were out there, extract the metadata that had the latitude and longitude, slap that into a mapping program, and bring up the exact location that the picture was supposedly taken to. Now, some of the benefits of doing these capture the flag games and environments are it's risk-free. You're not doing this in production. In our case, there's a company called that's actually what they specialize in. Larger companies may have their own cyber ranges to keep their skill sets up of their employees, and there's these third-party ones that are out there that will run events that are similar to these. So it's completely virtual, risk-free environment. You're not in somebody else's production environment. You get the hands-on skills necessary that with the software and the tools that you would use in a production environment in real time. This is not theoretical. This is not book knowledge. This is real hands-on experience. And you also get to learn teamwork, which comes into one of my lessons learned when producing one of these, as everybody has strengths and weaknesses when it comes to anything that you do. And most of these are conducted with teams. I do believe that there may be some capture the flag events that are solo, but in our case, there was teams of 2 to 4. And I think most of us had 4. Our team had 3. And the tools that you're typically using with these, and the ones that we used, were Kali Linux. We attempted to use Wireshark. That kind of failed in connecting to the virtual environment with one of our teammates, as well as just got to understand your Unix prompts, which I'll get into a little bit of some of the issues I walked into, having never done this before and having not really used Unix in a really long time. So what are the 4 lessons that I learned after going through this? Gotta practice your Unix commands. It had been years since I had used Unix environments. I don't do a ton of hands-on keyboard stuff. I've got a few things like Raspberry Pis that I use internally for my own network. So I occasionally get into those, but this is definitely not a regular basis, maybe once a quarter that I even mess with my own stuff or performing an update type of thing. And then specifically, you would need to learn Kali Linux, which is some of the I'm going to use the term cracking tools, but the tools necessary to help with cybersecurity engineering and vulnerability assessments to go into there. I had kind of made the assumption that we were going to be given some sort of cheat sheet. The scenarios or this capture the flag event was kind of advertised as beginner level. Anybody that had any IT experience, please come join us. It was a free event. I knew the people that were running it. A buddy of mine was also on my team. He had not done one in years either. So there was a team of us, at least 2. And so I had watched one of these events back in the end of 2023, and I had swiped a book called Breaches and Attack Simulation for Dummies. I had not flipped through it at all. I had never went through it. It had been sitting there for a couple months. The day before the Capture the Flag event, I decided, I'm going to sit outside. It's nice. I'm going to read this thing, at least kind of get myself primed up for what I'm going to experience for the Capture the Flag event. Well, when I started flipping through this was more of a managerial for dummies book, which those concepts I already know. I'm already trained and certified in all of those things. And this was not a refresher or a primer on Unix commands, Kali Linux, any of the tool or any other tool necessary to be able to participate in a Capture the Flag event. So that didn't help. So I kind of breezed through that, skimmed it, didn't help. The next thing after we get into the room, we could bring our own laptops, which I had brought mine, and I actually do have some of the tools installed, even though I don't use it for whatever reason. But I forgot my power cord, so that didn't work well, and I had to use one of the provided computers that they had, which were essentially fresh Windows 11 install computers. Nothing else was installed on the machine. So Wireshark wasn't installed on the machine. None of the Kali Linux stuff was installed on the machine. To be able to, we could connect using those computers into the virtual environment. So that became a little bit of an issue with connecting. One of our teammates, we actually had a third teammate walk in the door, Miles. I'm going to tag him into the post. I appreciate him showing up. He was great to work with and actually had participated in one of these recently, but it was having difficulty with the provided equipment using Wireshark to connect into the virtual lab. So that became an issue with him because I think that was going to be where one of his strengths were going to lie. So having equipment already installed with the software, already known to be working within that particular cyber range, I think would have helped out a little bit. And not with me not knowing how to use the commands, but for others that knew what they were doing, I think that would have smoothed over a couple things. Also walking into this, I didn't really understand, having never seen it before, how the clues and the scenarios work together. So you would be given a puzzle and there'd be maybe a one word or a couple word clue on the direction that you were supposed to take the challenge. And this is one of those things that I thought, again, we were going to get some sort of cheat sheet, as this was initially believed to be an entry-level Capture the Flag. There really wasn't anything given as far as that. It was like, hey, here's the environment. Click it, log in. There's the 16 puzzles. You can bounce around them. You can pick whatever you want. There you go. And each of the puzzles are weighted a score. I think it was 10 points, 15 points, 20, and I think up to 25. Of course, the harder the puzzle, the more points you got for being able to solve that. The one I solved was a 10, but I got it. That's the way I look at it. So I think, and also during this process, I instead of seeing that this was really entry level, I saw that the scenarios were marked as intermediate. So that kind of, a term I had been using was monkey on the keyboard, where I was just sitting there just kind of hacking away at this, where I would have Kali Linux commands up and trying to break through. I'd actually found something for one of the scenarios that used an old Perl script, for anybody that is familiar with that, to be able to backtrack. And I made it all the way to the end. It just wouldn't execute the way it was supposed to have executed. I was able to get that installed and work through. So it was definitely an understanding, just not being able to execute. And the last thing for sure is that I think teamwork makes the difference. The team that won the event in the end of last year that I have observed, they showed back up again and they crushed everybody. They finished first. They had quadrupled our score, and I think they doubled the score of the team in second place. This is a college team that travels around, and this is what they do. I think they know exactly, everybody has their role defined. Everybody has the tools they're supposed to be used. Everybody knows the strengths and weaknesses of the others, which allows them to function as a unit, as no different that you would run the department that you run, the business that you run, have predefined roles. They probably had great communication. They were a few tables away from us, so it wasn't like I could eavesdrop on them. Matter of fact, we were at the end, so I didn't have anybody to eavesdrop off of as we were going through the exercises, because that probably would have helped. But the teamwork definitely made a difference with what they were doing, and they ran away with it, on top of just having the required skill sets to be successful for this. So now that I've went through the process of participating in a Capture the Flag, who do I think should try one? If you are in IT leadership of any sort, and I'm talking about CIO, CTO, definitely a CISO, of course, I think this is something that you should go participate in just to understand the complexity of what goes into these skill sets. Particularly for those that, like myself, who kind of been away from the keyboard for a while, and maybe this was never even part of your job. That if you go and participate in one of these, it's a game, it's for fun. That you'll be able to communicate that complexity back in a more sound way when it comes to determining budgets, determining other resources that may need to be protected. Particularly if you're someone that works in a large environment that has a very big threat landscape. You've got lots of employees, lots of equipment. Maybe you actually produce code. You store a lot of customer files. You have a lot of sensitive information that I think just going through this experience shows that complexity to you for those that have never experienced it. And I am definitely not one that says for you to be an effective leader that you need to go and understand at every granular level every person's job underneath you. Absolutely not. It doesn't work that way. You go and hire those skill sets. But if you're in a situation where you just can't grasp the reality of what a role brings and what the value brings to the table, that spending a couple hours in their shoes, you're not going to become the expert. I won't be definitely have no intention of becoming the expert at some of these things. I would do it again. It helps reframe your mind for those things that you don't quite understand. If you're if you're working in cybersecurity but you're non-technical, let's say you're an auditor or you're just in the governance and risk piece, this is something I think you should be exposed to as well. Again, it goes back to understand the complexity, being able to communicate that complexity when you start evaluating those environments and seeing where maybe somebody is not checking all the boxes that they need to be, if they need to comply with a certain framework within their industry, that you can kind of elaborate on how the complexities of these types of skill sets and understanding security vulnerabilities. And of course, if you are a hands-on keyboard, absolutely love threat hunting and things of this nature, this is a must. It keeps your skills sharp. It allows you to be exposed to other people in a safe environment that may have new tactics that you haven't thought about. If you get locked in, stovepiped within a large organization, this will probably let you get exposed to new areas of work that you've not seen before, as well as counting to your own work portfolio. This is one of those things that I think counts to building up your skill sets. You can work on things maybe you're weak on with other people that have those as their strengths. You can also do that in reverse. The things that your strengths, you can give that to others. I mean, this is to me, it's a unity thing. It goes back to that teamwork environment, and you can sit there and figure out how best the teams work together. So definitely, again, I think I was texting my wife and another buddy of mine who wanted to participate, and was like, how's it going? And I just kept using a term. I said, I'm like a monkey hitting a keyboard. I had not prepped. Do not walk into one of these prepped. If you are in IT leadership or you're in a non-technical cybersecurity role and you would like to participate in one of these, absolutely do it. But at least spend a little bit of time going over basic Unix commands, going over Kali Linux, maybe looking at Wireshark, and just getting a good frame of reference with how some of that works at a rudimentary level. And make sure you're entering one of the Capture the Flag events that is based for beginners. I don't think I would have had nearly as much fun if we were in the attack defend environment with the teams going against each other, because it's not what I've done. It's not what I do. Talk about getting creamed, but I did solve a puzzle. So until the next one, talk to you later.